In this video I'm going to address two videos. The first one was made by a user that is fairly new to me anyway. A user goes by the name of Dom1 with a 0 for the letter O. And the second is by Veritas 48, who has posted 5 more questions for atheists. I think it's probably easiest if I started by addressing Dom1's video, because he sort of presents in his video two caricatures, one of a Christian and another one of an atheist. Now, I can't really speak for Christians, so I won't go there, but I can certainly look at how he presents the atheist position and observe that that does not really gel very much with my own position, even though I consider myself quite a strong atheist. So let's see what sort of words that Dom1 puts into the mouth of an atheist. He starts reasonably enough. He says, God does not exist. Well, that's true. God does not exist. It's a fact. But how can I be so confident of this? The thing is, if you listened to what I just said, and that got your back up, then I can be fairly sure that you have a preconceived idea of what a God is. And that is something that I cannot share with you. To me, the word God is a meaningless 3-letter concatenation that makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And it's not for want of trying. I have asked several people who proclaim to believe in God to explain to me what this supposed God that they believe in is meant to be. What is this God that you believe in? And all I ever get is explanations that ultimately boil down to describing this God thing as something real that somehow exists beyond, over and outside reality. And that, of course, is absurd and nonsensical, and I reject it out of hand. So if I hear somebody who proclaims to be a Christian, for example, say that they believe in God, then I can quite confidently state, sorry, but your God does not exist. Give me a better explanation of what God is supposed to be, and I might reconsider, but nobody ever has. But then he kind of goes down the aggressive anti-theistic version of atheism, and I'm not sure I can buy into that. For example, statements such as God and the Bible are solely manifestations of the human psyche. No, I don't see it as that. I do not see them as projections or wishful thinking. That's also, portrayed by statements such as, it is unbelievable that people still follow such fairy tales. They're a crutch for the weak and the fearful. They're unintelligent and gullible. That incredulous myths and lies are in the Bible. It's farcical. That only applies to if you're looking at the Bible as something that is meant to be a bunch of facts written down in a book. If you look at the Bible like that, it is comically incorrect. But that is not what I think the Bible is meant to be, and I don't think that many Christians, for example, think that the Bible is meant to be something like that. Nor do I think that many Muslims think that their Quran is meant to be a litany of factual information either. No, Bible and Quran and other holy books are expressions, are human expressions. They are metaphorical tales, they are allegorical tales, and so on and so forth. They are ways of communicating across centuries from one human or a group of humans to others. Now, the language in which it is all cloaked is all supernatural and mythical and on the face of it absurd, but that it would be wrong, I think, to dismiss such books out of hand just because they seemingly are factually incorrect. Or, if you were to look at them factually, they are incorrect. I would suggest you don't do that. So I am not a sort of atheist who basically poo-poos the Bible or the Quran or anything like that, only because it cannot be factually correct. Obviously, if somebody approaches me and starts insisting that they are, I will laugh at them in their face. But that is not how I think those books are meant to be read. The other points are that he presents atheists as these ultra-rational, logic-driven entities. And that again is something that I don't think is correct. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of atheists out there that do present that sort of an image to the outside world, but it's not one that I buy into. It's best illustrated by the final statement: bribery is not a sound basis on which to ascertain truth or attain truth. And if you're looking at other statements, they're all about, on the one hand, a very nihilistic outlook on life, one where existence, like here, existence is ultimately meaningless, for example. Life is devoid of reason or intent. We are not special. And on the other hand, science is the only way to find any understanding. It's the only way to truth and to get a deeper understanding. Everything that exists is the result of complex scientific laws and systems. Again, this ultra-rational point of view is not mine. Don't get me wrong. I do think that what we're seeing around us, that life in all its complexities and so on and so forth, is the result of complex interactions and systems and so on. It is a natural phenomenon that has, emerged over time out of the universe doing what it is it does. Don't get me wrong, and don't get me wrong in the sense that I do fully accept that the way to understand how everything hangs together in this universe, how it all works, how to make the best out of what we're dealing with, of reality, we need to get a factual understanding of reality. We need to understand how things really are, how they work, how they hang together, and how we can best harness the potential of our environment to make our existence more pleasurable for ourselves, more rewarding, more fulfilling. That is beyond question. But I don't think it's a question of truth. Truth is a very personal thing. I don't believe in an ultimate truth. I believe in personal truth. You can be true to yourself, you can be true to a friend, you can be truthful in what you say because you think that what you're saying is based on fact, or you are being true to somebody else. That I can understand, but there's no such thing as an ultimate truth. That is a nonsensical statement. The universe is just what it is. Reality is just what it is. Reality is internally consistent, and that manifests itself in the way we perceive in the world around us a high level of regularity, something that we describe as the laws of nature. But I would not in a million years go as far as claiming that the universe is governed by laws of nature. That in fact would be an absurdity, because that would imply that those laws of nature are something that are external to reality and imposed on it from some external place. That, in my opinion, basically sneaks God in through the back door. And I've already explained why I cannot buy into any sort of idea of a God, not even a metaphysical creator of the laws of nature. Not for me, sorry. So, and this idea that life would be meaningless without this motivating force behind it, a reason for us to be here, is equally, in my opinion, absurd. Because meaning is something that we ourselves give to our lives. We decide what the purpose is going to be of our lives. We set our own goals and we decide where we want our lives to lead. Rationality is a wonderful tool. It is the most powerful tool that we have in our possession to make the best out of reality. But what is the best to be made out of reality? That is a personal decision based on our feelings. That is driven by emotion. Our push to make the best out of reality is driven by our wants and needs. If we make rationality a goal in its own right, we turn existence into a sterile, meaningless, nihilistic wasteland. We need to use rationality to serve our wants and needs. If we turn rationality into a goal, we've missed the point completely. So this is the sort of atheist that I am. And now you understand that, let me go to Veritas 48's questions and let me try and answer them. I'm afraid, for example, that my question to Veritas 48's first question, my answer, is going to be facetious in most people's eyes. They're going to think I'm just brushing it off. But I hope now that my previous statements help you understand why I am arriving at this answer. His first question was this: if, when you die, you find yourself in a place of judgment, in front of God, and it ends up being the case that those pesky Christians were right all along, what would be your first statement to God? I've already explained there is no God, and this is not something that is a word game to me, or mind games or anything like that. There is no God. When I listen to any Christian explain to me what their God is supposed to be, it's a meaningless concept that makes no sense to me whatsoever. You might as well ask me what I would say if I were to find myself in front of Glurb. It's this example that I keep bringing up. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. And if you're forcing me to answer this question, I think the only thing that I could say if I were to find myself in this impossible situation, which is never going to happen, is: who revived me? Why do you think this is funny? Tell me what's going on. And stop messing about, because I'm not buying it for a second. There is no God. Period. What sort of evidence would you find sufficient for you to abandon atheism and to become a believer in God, and not particularly Christianity per se, but just God like a general sort of theism? Sorry, what do you even mean by that statement? What do you mean by a general sort of theism? I've never met anybody who believes in a general sort of God and who adheres to a general sort of theism. So I do not know what you mean when you say God. I cannot repeat that often enough. God is a meaningless word to me. So how can you ask me what evidence would suffice for me to start believing in God? Again, what evidence would suffice for me to believe in Glurb or Zdongle or Schnegelwurz? You tell me. What evidence should be sufficient for me to believe in an entity that nobody has ever been polite enough to explain to me? So again, I'm not going to go there. But now maybe, given what I've said leading up to this, maybe now you understand why I'm being so facetious about this. Because it simply makes no sense. Do you think the new atheist movement is ultimately a good thing? Now, first of all, I do not subscribe to the whole idea of there being a new atheist movement. The only thing that has happened is that our means of communication have become more and more sophisticated, and we are now able to communicate instantly with many people in different places in the world. So whereas beforehand, as an atheist, you would find yourself in a small minority, surrounded by theists, where nobody around you would even seem to come close to sharing your total disbelief, your inability to understand what all the nonsense and all the rituals and all the crap was all about. And you would just keep it all to yourself because you knew that every time you opened your mouth, somebody would look at you weird and say like, what the? Who is he? What is he saying? Now we are able to find that maybe a couple of streets further down, or in the next village, or in the country next door, or on the other side of the ocean, there are people who are just like us, and who just like us simply cannot make head or tail of all the nonsense, and who see right through it, and who see how much bullshit it really is. And that is extremely liberating. And that leads us to start speaking out openly about the fact that, sorry, there may be billions and billions of you who believe in all this supernatural crap. But it is supernatural crap. It bears no relation to reality, and we're not buying it. Now, do you think it's a good idea to start talking about it openly? Oh yes, I do. There is definitely no respect owing for religion as such. Because we've all seen where that leads to. We've all seen to what atrocities are the result of people blindly respecting the authority of somebody who is ultimately basing their authority on vaporware, on nothing. What I do not think is right is the sort of personal attacks that some of us are so eager to perpetrate on people who still adhere to some religion or another. It is one thing to state openly that you think that the content of their belief system is nonsensical and ridiculous. It is quite another to therefore dismiss them as idiots or as retards or as anything like that. Of course, there are some people who can be dismissed like that. If you're looking at a fundamentalist who comes and tells you in all sincerity that the earth is 6,000 years old, then sorry, you're a moron if you believe that. But on the other hand, if you believe in some sort of a creator God, a concept that in your own mind makes sense, even if you are unable to communicate it to people like me so I can understand what you're talking about, well, that is a personal thing. Don't judge me, or judge me as much as you like, in fact, but don't condemn me. Tell me I'm wrong as much as you like. I don't care. But tell me that I deserve to suffer for not believing in your bullshit, and you are in trouble. Don't then think for a moment that I can ever accept any hand of friendship that you might extend to me, because that's never going to happen. And that is something that does need to be said out loud and in your face, because that is the sort of attitude, this silent condemnation, this unspoken assumption that atheists are the scum of the earth and they don't even deserve the same sort of human dignity that is extended to other people as if it is the most natural thing in the world, that needs to be exposed, that is something that I'm fully behind. And if that's what you mean by new atheism, then yes, I say it is for me, and bring it on, and it's not a minute too soon. What sort of decisions are affected by my atheism? And Veritas was explaining, are there anything that you would say that you wouldn't hold this view if it weren't for being an atheist? I honestly don't know whether I can answer that, because I have basically always been an atheist. I just don't know any other way to be. So any of my decisions are basically caused by me being me and looking at the world from my own perspective, making my own decisions and coming to my own conclusions. But that's what I've always done, even before I knew that there was a word such as atheist to describe what I was. So no, I can't say I can really say that that is the case, no. And finally, then, what is more important? Acquiring true beliefs or not gaining false beliefs? Well, I hope I have already clarified that a little bit in my previous ramblings, and that is that I don't believe in truths or falsehoods anyway. I believe in establishing information, gathering evidence that is factually correct, and then arriving at, reasonable assumptions about how the world around you functions, so you can make the best out of it. But that has nothing to do with truth. That has to do with, being factual and being, rational, yes. But truth? No, it has nothing to do with truth. It is just the most efficient way to get the best out of your environment. But like I said, the best, that is something that you decide on an emotional basis. Are you satisfied with what being rational gives you? I am. I certainly know that when I am being rational about how the world around me functions and how I should interact with it, I get much more satisfaction out of it than by being any other way. And that, of course, is very important to me, because that makes me feel good. But truth? I don't care about truth. You've got your truth, and I've got mine.